At Bottom Line, I use the she pronoun, and we are so thrilled to have you here for our 5th annual Project Onramp Career Institute. The Career Institute is designed to help you prepare for a successful and productive internship this summer. We know that all of you have worked so hard finalizing your resumes, preparing for interviews for this particular moment, about to begin a meaningful and impactful experience that will certainly pave your course for your future career. So, as you all know at this point, Project Onramp is an exclusive, one-of-a-kind program that brings together talented college students across the country and life sciences companies for a summer of learning and discovery, networking, and intentional skill building. I'd love to introduce you to Ruby Kim, the Project Onramp manager, who has been working tirelessly to help you secure your summer internship. She's the one who's been working behind the scenes with our companies, with all of you and the organizations that you belong to. So this is a person who's been sending all of those important messages. So Ruby, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Ruby. I'm sure you have heard from me by email, but it's just so nice seeing you on the screen. Congratulations on securing a summer internship and basically jumpstarting your career in the life sciences industry. Now, I would like to introduce our wonderful keynote speaker, Aremin Hacobian. He focuses on organizational health and development at Third Rock Ventures, as well as the portfolio companies, and specifically working with the equity, diversity, and inclusion best practices and behaviors within the company and also across the industry. He has over 20 years of experience in the biotech and pharmaceutical industry. So now I am going to pass it over to Aremin.
Thank you, Ruby. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm a huge fan of Project Onramp, so I'm honored to be able to speak here today. Again, my name is Aremin Hacobian. I want to start a little bit by sharing my background, a little of my career journey, and then my hope is to hit on 3 themes. One is a little bit of my name. Aremin is not an easy name to pronounce, and just a little bit of the role that has in terms of shaping my identity and my career. I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, what it feels like to be in a company and maybe not know all the answers. And that's totally okay to be vulnerable. So I want to hit on that a little bit. And then finally, I just want to give a shout out to Project Onramp and the journey that all of you are on, and just hopefully reinforce some concepts as you head into the summer and your internships. To start, I guess I'll start with failure. I did study biology at BU. Third Rock's offices are right near Fenway Park. I can look out the window and see my freshman dorm. My goal was to be a doctor. I was hit by a car when I was 10 years old. It was pretty bad. I was on crutches for a year. I was a huge Celtics fan and was worried I'd never play basketball again. The Celtics are going to come back, by the way. I'm predicting that. But being hit by a car got me just interested in medicine and science. And I always thought from the age of 10, like, wow, I just want to be an orthopedic surgeon. I want to be a doctor. And, long story short, I went to BU. I studied biology and went pre-med and applied to medical school, and I didn't get in. So it was an interesting career moment where I decided, rather than to just keep trying, which could have been, a career path, I explored what it would be like to work in a laboratory setting. And I used my sort of biology background to get my first job in a lab. And what was interesting is as I got more involved with the laboratory assays, the experiments, I found that I really enjoyed understanding how the laboratory operated. I liked to sort of be part of the big picture, like what are the goals of the lab? How does it connect to the organization? I sort of like to sort of be involved in everything. So that led to me pursuing my master's in business, gave me like a well-rounded sort of understanding of the industry, of business, strategy, operations, and that sort of thing. And for a few years, my career was like a jack of all trades. I was in, at the time, Millennium Pharmaceuticals. I did finance, I did HR, facilities, operational work. And eventually I started to find that I really liked change. Like organizations, whether they're successful, whether they're going through tough times, there's a lot of change, right? And how do you manage that change effectively has basically been my career now for 15 years. So, I've been with a company that Millennium was acquired by Takeda, which was a Japanese company. I've had the pleasure of traveling to Japan 11 times and trying to bridge the Japanese way of working with the US way of working. And part of when you talk about diversity and building a culture, you need to honor the uniqueness of the people in that organization, wherever they are in the world. So, so I've had a really good time. I guess the first lesson that I want to say, or the takeaway is, I went to college. I planned on being a doctor. Didn't work out. And how do you learn from those key points, right? And how do you grow from there? So yeah, I continued to work in the biotech field because I loved working through change so much. I ended up going back to school, one more time. I think it's the last time, and got a master's in organization development. My son was 3 months old when I started that. That was at American University. So, I had a 3-month-old son. My wife, we're all new parents, and I'm going to Washington, D.C. once a month for a week at a time. And, it was one of those things that it was worth investing in myself to advance my career. But there's never an easy point in time to make some of these decisions. And sometimes, I guess the other lesson I want to share is, if there's something you're interested in doing, the longer you put it off, the less likely it is that you're going to do it. Life gets really busy and complicated. So through that experience, I ended up coming to Third Rock Ventures a little over 5 years ago. Really briefly, Third Rock, we're a venture capital company. We've been around since 2007. We've launched over 60 biotech companies since 2007 on the East Coast and the West Coast. And a little bit of what I do is just help these companies when they're starting out think about culture. What's the workplace that they're trying to create? How can they be effective as a leadership team and as an organization? And at the end of the day, and we'll talk about this for each of you as Onramp interns, you want to go to work every day and you want to be yourself. You want to show up and show your maximum potential and be the best that you can be. And if everyone in an organization can do that, that's the best outcome when you think of creativity and innovation. So that's kind of my introduction. My name, I'm Armenian. When I started my career, I wasn't always brave enough to correct people. And most people called me Aremin, Armin Hammer. I got a lot of different pronunciations. And one day, this goes back about 15 years, I had helped someone purchase a $250,000 piece of laboratory equipment. And his name was Gordon. He was super psyched that I helped him get this high-tech piece of equipment. And he's like, how do you really pronounce your name? You've really helped me here. How do you pronounce your name? And I said, oh, it's Aremin. And he said, forget it. It's too hard to pronounce. I'm never going to remember that. The industry and the world has changed a lot in 15 years. And I'd like to say it's easier to be yourself. It's easier to stand up for your identity and, not to shy away. And one thing I did when I joined 2018, I ended up sending an email to the whole company, and I said, this is the name, and I actually phonetically said, Aremin. Please, respect that that's my identity, that's who I am. And afterwards, a lot of people came up to me and thanked me for sending that out, because they had similar challenges where their name or their identity or their background wasn't respected or acknowledged. And we've done a lot of work at Third Rock to hopefully embrace that. So that's a little bit of that background. The other thing I wanted to share, this concept of imposter syndrome. And what that means is if you show up in a workplace, you could be with a group of friends. Let's say that people are talking about something and you don't really understand or know, the details or understand what they're really talking about, but you don't want to kind of stand out. You don't want to say that you don't know. So you kind of fake it. You've heard the term like fake it till you make it, or, you sort of pretend to understand. And I spent a lot of my early career, you'll understand as you go into your companies, drug development, to get a drug to the market through like early stage trials into humans and into actually like approved by the FDA. It's a team sport, complex. There's in an R&D organization, you'll have 10 or 15 different departments involved in helping that drug reach the market of the patients. So there's a lot to understand. And I remember earlier in my career, I'd be in a room with 15 vice presidents, talking about a drug development project or talking about business strategy. And each of those 15 vice presidents represented a department. And I remember sitting there and I'm like, wow, these people are really smart. Like they understand every part of the science. They understand the financial, intricacies. They understand the business strategy, the competition, the regulatory environment. I kind of was like, I was a little bit frustrated with my own lack of knowledge. So I left the meeting and my boss was in the meeting and I said to him, Chris, I'm just impressed. Like everyone, understands everything that just went on. And he told me, no, they're just nodding their heads. They're pretending that they understand, but they don't really understand. And they just don't want to look bad in front of their own bosses. And for me, that was like very liberating, freeing, because understanding that it's okay to say that you don't know. I really encourage each of you, like this experience you're about to embark on or already part of. And I do feel life sciences, biotech is a very open industry. Drugs can't be created unless there's high degrees of innovation. And for innovation, you need to be curious. You have to have an open mind. You have to have diversity of ideas, opinions, and perspectives. So the people who I've seen succeed are the ones who are willing to be vulnerable. They're willing to raise their hand and say, can you walk me through this? I'm not an expert here, but I want to learn. That really goes a long way. And the people who I've seen fail, and I've seen a lot of like CEOs come into our companies, the ones who don't work out are the ones who think they know everything. And they come in, they're not curious, they think it's their way. They don't want to take the time to understand, maybe what happened before they came onto the company. So I think that's my other piece of advice is be two things. It's okay to be vulnerable. And if you're ever in a company where you feel you can't be yourself, it's probably the wrong company for you. And each of you are going to have a very long career. Finding that place where you can be yourself and you can reach your full potential, there's really nothing better than that when it comes to working and your career journey. So the last thing I'll say, Project Onramp is amazing. Third Rock has been working with Project Onramp for 3 years now, and we just invested a lot of time and money to help with the national expansion. We really believe in this program. At Third Rock, a number of our portfolio companies have had Project Onramp interns over the past few years. A few of them have gone on to now work for those companies. I really love working in biotech, especially now after COVID. It's a fun industry. You feel you're making a difference. It's flexible. You can go in so many different directions, and it also tends to pay really well and have really good benefits. So I think you're all in a really good place. before I think we might have time for a couple questions, but one thing that I really encourage each of you to do, if you're on LinkedIn, please look my name up, connect with me, you know, just ask me to connect. I'd love for you to be part of my network, which means that you'll have access to my network and the people that I know. And at any point in time, if you want to drop me a note on LinkedIn or at my Third Rock account and just have a question, I really mean this. Please reach out. I love to sort of help people, especially at this stage of their career. And I really am excited for you. You're about to embark on hopefully what's an amazing journey. So I wish you all really good luck. So yeah, if you have questions, I think we have some time, but thanks again for letting me be here today. I see a couple hands raised. I don't know, Ruby, is there a Q&A moderator or?
So if any students would like to come off mute and ask a question, or you can type in your questions in the chat, we do still have about 10 minutes for Q&A.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Chiruza Mwimuzi. I got UMass Amos, majoring in biology. And I'm also planning go to medical school. And it has been really super hard just because there's a lot of requirement and a lot of paths to go through. Is there something which maybe advice which you would light with your own experience, how person can go this process as general
And are you speaking directly about pursuing your dream of going to medical school? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, let me sort of my own experience for me was I was at a point financially where I needed to get a job, right? I would have loved to continue to pursue the medical school path, but I just had to make some really tough decisions and decided not to pursue that career. But I would say part of this would be as soon as possible if you have people who you can work with as a mentor and who are either currently in the medical field or have connections with institutions that might be valuable in your journey. People usually are more than willing to take 30 minutes, an hour, you know, a couple times a month to help you through your journey and through your learning and your career. So I would encourage you, if there's a particular aspect of medicine, or if there's a particular medical school that you might be interested in, identifying someone who might be able to just be a mentor for you through the process would potentially go a long way.
We do have a question in the chat from Jerry. Could you repeat how to pronounce your name again?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Jerry. It is Aremin. So it's, I kind of roll the R, but if you can't roll the R, it's Aremin is fine. In general, it's not about necessarily getting it right. It's when people actually try. I appreciate that. It's, you know, unfortunately, sometimes you'll see people who don't try and, you know, they're not my favorite colleagues or team members. What can I say?
And we have a second question from Lamar. What was your very first biotech job like?
Yeah, so I will. My first, well, I'll give you my first two jobs out of college. So graduated from BU in 1995, which makes me feel really old. But my first job was actually at a manufacturing electroplating company where I was like the quality control person for quality control and chemistry. And it was an environment, this was not biotech. It was like, you know, sort of a factory setting. People didn't really feel like a team. People came into work, you punched a clock in, you punched a clock out. I quit that job after 2 or 3 months. It wasn't the right environment for me. So then I went to a company called Genetics Institute. And if you Google Genetics Institute, it's one of the first biotech companies in the Boston, Cambridge area. And Genetics Institute became kind of the blueprint for what a lot of the biotechs that you see today are. And what was different about that is people respected each other. People with small biotech companies, there's a sense of urgency. You don't know if your drug's going to work. Most drugs fail, you know, and you sort of, everyone does, like, you have your job, you know what your day-to-day job is supposed to be. But my Genetics Institute was my first biotech company. Everyone did what they, how do I say it? They did whatever needed to be done. It wasn't like, oh, you're in finance, I'm not going to help you, or you know, I'm in a laboratory, I'm not going to work with someone in manufacturing. Everyone felt connected to the same goal. And what's nice about this industry, and you're all at different, you know, biotech or life science companies, every single one of those companies ultimately is trying to improve the health of patients worldwide and the patient communities that they serve. So it's a really good mission to be part of. And but yeah, I guess, I don't know, Lamar, if that answered your question, but there's so much to learn when you first get into it. And I guess the other thing I'll say, once you're in an organization or a company, ask a lot of questions and like try to connect with departments that are outside of your own department. And just understanding what other people are doing helps you to understand the bigger picture. And the other thing I'll share, my philosophy early on in my career, and I'm looking at the next question, I'll get to the Celtics in a second. My philosophy was, what can I do that my boss or my manager is doing? Can I take that responsibility from him or her, so that A, they'll appreciate, like, wow, you know, Aremin's like taking this off my plate. That's really helpful. How did I become a Celtics fan, and do you still play basketball? I do play basketball. My son is 10, my daughter's 7. We've got a hoop in the yard. I'm only 5'9", so you know I never was able to dunk, but I agree. And I went on Facebook and I said the Celtics are going to be the team to come back and win this series. So hopefully I'm right. But I grew up when it was like, you know, the big three: Larry Bird, you know, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale. The glory days of Celtics basketball for in the 80s at least. So that was my Celtics origin.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Aremin, for all of your remarks. Also, go C's. I'm really crossing my fingers for tonight. If you have, I know there are questions in the chat too. Students are starting to warm up. And so I encourage all of you to take Aremin's request to consideration.